Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Wake up! Just kidding. If you are already here, then you are already up because you got insomnia just like me. Or you're in a place where it's a decent hour. But if you're in America, it's not, because it's either 4 o'clock in the morning where you're at, or it's about to be 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. You may be in Australia like Aaron. You may be in Pakistan, So for some of you, this shows nothing about insomnia. Just only me and here on planet USA. Yeah, the ferrets that run my mind have just said nope, we're just not ready to get off the wheel yet. So I figure I'll use that energy on you guys. Please like, subscribe, share. If you want to donate for something silly and stupid that you want me to watch or do, there is the link that's tied to the top. And of course, we'll start with one of Anthony's novels. William, what are your thoughts on some of these movies? YouTube channel saying it's a complete failure for Marvel again with Fantastic. All right, so if you hear that, I would suggest move on to some better YouTubers, to be honest with you. If you're hearing YouTubers, if you're hearing people say that, then maybe it's just time to move on to some different YouTubers, because we as YouTubers have proven over the last decade that we appear to know jack shit about success, failure, and any of these other things. So in the Marvel and Disney, they play the long game. They don't play the fanboy panic game. So you go ahead and try to tell Kevin Feige and Bob Iger and all those guys what a failure is at this point in the game when they know what they got coming. Like I said, when you start hearing some of the crazy stuff, not just about this, but any of these, I would say just don't listen. Just move on to another YouTuber. You don't have to move on to somebody that necessarily agrees and is going to say everything you want to hear, but you really need to move on to people that are that what they're talking, it's based on something. If you're going to say something's a failure, do you know what the goal was? Do you know exactly how much it needs to make? Do you know what the goal is over time? You don't know any of that stuff. So I would say, be honest with you, just move on from those YouTubers. Oh, it's my favorite kangaroo. Oh. This is the deal. What time is it in Australia right now, Aaron? It's what are you like 10 hours, 8 hours? So you're at noon, right? You're right at the height of noon. It should be. How are you doing, Antonio Baker? What's going on? William, did you hear Paramount Plus got the rights? Yeah, everybody's scrambling to get the rights to something. That WWE deal is starting to come a little bit more into focus. I got some more information I didn't have the other night when we were talking about it. So it appears that if you are a cable subscriber of ESPN, a lot of those extra charges are not going to hit you. So I'm okay with that. But a lot of WWE fans are not going to want to go get cable too. So that's another thing. Septic or skeptic? I think you meant skeptic. But Jack Cage, when do you think Cody and Roman are leaving for filming? Does that hurt? No. If it hurts a WWE product for them to be gone, shit. Roman Reigns has been gone at years at a time. Sometimes remember he was battling leukemia, so they've gone without him. The product should be balanced enough to where no one person should really take it off rails like that. They got plenty of people right now that they could be building up or should have built up. Hold on for a second. I was going to make sure we're not doing anything stupid here. They should have already built up to the point where, people rotate out, because you also have natural, cycles when you've used people for months and months at a time and their body needs to heal. So you rotate them out. So you need people to rotate in no matter what. So I would say, I don't think it'll hurt the product any more than the product already sucks now. Chappie question: why ballerina flop at the? Why did ballerina? Guys, I know it's late. Why did ballerina flop at the box office? It's in the whole girl boss controversy. And do you think came? Well, I don't. First of all, let me look at what ballerina did. I don't think flop means you lost money. I don't think it cost ballerina. Ballerina was what, a $90 million movie. So Ballerina pulled in $132 million off of a budget, I think, of like 90 something. It didn't do great, but it wasn't like Howard the Duck. I mean, you can't really say that a movie that you didn't really spend that much money on, to be honest with you, flopped. It probably broke even at best. But then again, you also got to realize that it also has been on PVOD quite a while, and it's done well there. The reason I don't think it did as well as it possibly could have is because I don't think people were ready to see girls do what John Wick does. It's different when you say, well, this female actress did this somewhere else. That's not John Wick. The kind of stuff John Wick is involved in. I don't know if people were ready for a little tiny little, Anna de Armas to do that, which sucks because she carried it very well. But more importantly, I think it's because without Keanu Reeves as the basis of the movie, I don't know if this John Wick universe has legs. And to answer your other question about Kane, I have a feeling that's going to be to a lesser degree affecting that movie as well. Braden, are you excited to see Michael Mann return to Scorpion? Not really. Not really. I mean, I'm not like bummed or anything, but I'm not, I'm cautiously watching what's going on with that movie. I'm seeing some of the set features. I love the costume, but I'm worried that there's a lot in this movie that's just going to make it a clutter fest. I'm hoping the writing is strong. I'm hoping I'm just being overly paranoid, and that even with all these characters in this movie, that it really at heart is just a Spider-Man movie, which I've been waiting for a long time. But as far as the Scorpion, I mean, I'm not like one way or another. I mean, I'm not excited, but I'm not bummed at it either. It's just another name for right now. Good thing I don't watch wrestling anymore since 2005. Yeah, I've never been the hugest fan of UFC. If there's a big name like Conor McGregor or when Brock Lesnar was there, if it's a big name, I'll gravitate towards it. Otherwise, there's just too much I don't know. Let's see. Do you think, Anthony, think the mentality of wrestling fans when it comes to WWE saying the product is going to go downhill once Roman leave because it's how Cena's booked? No. I think that's just some wrestling fans. The majority of fans are still going to be there. And as a matter of fact, all these upcharges and things that they're doing with the product and making things more expensive, raising ticket prices, you know what? Until they stop selling out, until people stop watching the product, then they're justified in doing it. I don't agree with it because I think it's getting harder and harder to survive in this world with entertainment. But as long as the WWE fans keep flocking towards it, they're not. See, what you're hearing is some online fans. You got to be careful. That's just like anything we talk about here. The online fans are not necessarily what moves the needle when it comes to actual hard cash. So I wouldn't worry about that. How you doing, Azteca? What's my opinion on this whole Karen Cross college situation? Many of us think that all the work Many promotions feel that way too. That's why they haven't reached out to them. It could be a work. To be honest with you, I don't think he's done anything meaningful, in my opinion, since he left TNA the first time. And I'm not saying he shouldn't left TNA, but I think if it is a work, then good on him. He's still there making a good paycheck. If it's not a work, I think Tony Khan should swallow them both up. I don't. If his contract's expired, I don't think he should resign. He's just not the kind of talent I think works there. I don't think he ever did. Let's see. Cain Velasquez beat the living shit. Yeah, I remember that. He tapped him out, didn't he? Took his championship belt like he owed him money. Yeah, because Brock Lesnar beat what? Was it Frank Mir? This is going way back. And Frank Mir was on his last legs, to be honest with you. But there are certain wrestlers that the gimmick doesn't fit. There's a lot of wrestlers where the gimmicks doesn't fit. All across, not just WWE, but I don't think it's just a writing, just a gimmick. Well, you got to realize though, if you're not one of their top guys, you kind of just languish. And even though they have a lot of TV, there's really with the amount of people that WWE has under their employee, you really that amount of TV is kind of small for the proportion amount of people they have. So I like Kevin Cross. I mean, I got to meet him, like I said before. I got to meet him here. I think he's a tremendous talent. I just think he has to be in the right situation. Maybe if this is the work, maybe that's them putting some heat on him, and maybe he's about to get pushed up to that next level. I think Kevin Cross has potential to be a top tier guy. And when you have the potential to be a top tier guy and you're not a top tier guy, you need to get somewhere else where you can be one, in my opinion. But hey, is Chad Gable healthy? I think what limits Chad Gable is his size, and I know nobody will ever say it out loud. Chad Gable's not a big guy. He does remind a lot of people. I mean, his gimmick is pretty much Kurt Angle, but Kurt Angle was he's a way better wrestler. He was a way better on-screen talent, and Kurt Angle came at the right time too. Kurt Angle came during the Attitude Era where that that kind of thing was more. Now I think a lot of what hurts him is sometimes he looked at like a smaller Kurt Angle that may be hurting him. But I like Chad Gable. I he's another one that I think would do well somewhere else. Chuck King, I think WWE is going to scare its audience away with these expensive prices, and AEW, since wrestling is not going to stay popular with prices over. I think like I said, that is a possibility, Chuck. I won't believe it until I see it. When I start seeing the crowds dwindle at these, they're doing stadium shows. Whereas SummerSlam and remember, most of your big pay-per-views outside of WrestleMania were all stadium shows. T-Mobiles and places like that. Now they're all stadium shows. SummerSlam's a 2-night stadium show. WrestleMania is a stadium show now permanently. They used to, because remember, if WrestleMania was the one that would drift back and forth between stadium arena. Now they're all arenas. They're doing Survivor Series is not a stadium, it's an arena. So they're doing arena shows now. So until those numbers dwindle, then I'd be like, like if you see some empty seats or the prices are dropping because they still got like 5,000-6,000 seats or so, maybe. But when you're selling out WrestleMania and those inflated prices to the point where you can bring it back here because you're going to sell out again, I think they're doing all right. As far as AEW, that's where AEW needs to take advantage, because AEW can make a cheaper product. They can offer a cheaper alternative. If you can't afford to go to WWE, but you want top tier wrestling, they're a significantly cheaper ticket. Wrestling doesn't hit the same like it did in the 90s. I don't think the 90s was that great of an era, to be honest with you. I think there's no particular decade in the 40 some odd years that I've been watching wrestling other than the 80s. In the 80s, if you look back in retrospect, wasn't great. It was just highlighted in the hype because of Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, MTV. So many things lined up in the 80s to make wrestling what it was, but that's what carried over into the 90s and the 2000s, to be honest with you. But every one of these eras has something good. I mean, and then if you're watching, you can watch foreign wrestling too. You can watch AAA, you can watch CMLL, you can watch New Japan, which I always recommend people watch New Japan. The wrestling is consistently good as it's been for the past 40 years. It's just we focus on certain things because of certain companies grab all the media attention. But I think it's just as good or bad as it was in the 80s or 90s, personally. But it's all different. Anthony, what do you think if WWE has changed the name ECW when they bought the company to something else? It wouldn't have been any good. I mean, it wasn't any good to begin with, because when you can purchase a company, but you can't necessarily purchase what that company means. And that's what WWE has done. They purchase companies, but you can purchase WCW, but you can't purchase what it means. That's why when I see that gold belt, I call it the counterfeit belt, because that belt only meant anything when it was in NWA, WCW. With them slapping their logo on it, doesn't mean anything to me. So Kane spinoff should be fine as long as they keep the budget low at best. Even if they keep the budget low, I just don't know if there's an appetite for these movies unless you're going to put him side by side for 90 minutes with John Wick himself. I'm just wondering. Maybe Kane will prove that wrong. I don't know. Many of the wrestling journalists feel the reason that WWE canceled press conferences was due. Yeah, well, that, and they don't want to have to answer the Janelle Grant questions. Because if you're a journalist worth anything and you got Triple H up there, you're going to ask him about that ongoing court case, and he's going to have to say no comment. So, and plus, a lot of the stuff that WWE might be involved in sometimes isn't for public consumption, and they don't want to have to deal with that. Which is the smart thing to do. I never believed in Gable back in 2018 when people were spamming him as a new Kurt Angle, but his work from 2021 now is proving wrong. When they brought him in that way, though, I think that really hurt him, because we already have a Kurt Angle. And that WWE tends to do that. They tend to say, hey, well, we had this guy years ago. He has that same energy. Let's do this. And it's like, let create something new. Whew. Yeah, and they're getting it, though. That's the problem, is they're getting, like, they even got a level when they did it here in Vegas, and they're going to do it here next year. They had a level so that that's in the actual ring entrance. So when you enter in the ring, there's a level there right there as you're sitting literally right in the ring entrance. So those seats had it, and all of those seats were sold out. So they've done a good job in keeping the spectacle relevant, even if the product isn't that good. Because this WrestleMania, this was not a good WrestleMania for me. Storylines and even the acting bad by modern wrestling. Even the selling is horrendous. Well, the selling is horrendous. And with all these developmental programs, there shouldn't be the kind of no selling and lack of selling but it happens. 90s are cool because I wasn't around during that time. I can't argue with you. It's that, like I said, I've been watching wrestling. I think I watched my first wrestling match in like 81, 82 maybe. And it was some really janky shit. But I think there's a point in every decade that is as good as any other decade. There's a stretch during the 2000s that is as good as anything you're ever going to see. There's a stretch in the 2010s that's as good as anything you're ever going to see. And the same thing with the 2020s and the 90s and the 80s. Because you're going to have those, you're going to have the transcendent type people that were in there. You're going to have a guy like a Bret Hart or a Shawn Michaels that's going to be good in any decade. You're going to have a guy like an Okada or a Kenny Omega that's going to be good in any decade. You have less and less buffer because you may not have as many of them. But like I said, you give me a decade and I can point to an era where that juncture in that decade was just as good as anything out there. So. I am not in Australia, and I don't know if Aaron. I don't know if we're gonna make Aaron mad, but I don't know if you can eat kangaroos. Why do you think most directors get pissed off or are real snobby about when one of their movies is getting a remake? Because it's near and dear to them. Most of them don't care. Most of them are adults about it, just like the fans should be. No matter what happens with that remake, David Proya is not going into a depression clinic because of his Crow was remade. What he did was his thing, and These things, some directors get mad over it, just like some fans get mad over it. But at the end of the day, nothing changes your original. Your original is still your original, and I think most directors feel that way. I love WWF and WCW in the 90s. Growing up as a kid, I was always flipping back and forth TNT to USA Network during the Monday Night Wars. It was fun, but I actually think that there's a lot that went on after that. John Wick has John Wick in it, if that's what you're asking me. So that movie's going to do well. Did you see that Joey Ryan was trying to make a comeback in a promotion to try to book him, and they had to pull him due to the public backlash? Yeah. I didn't hear about it, but I figured that's how that would go. William, where did they do the NXT pay-per-view? Is that at T-Mobile, or did they do that in the stadium where, it'll be paid? No, they did that at T-Mobile. All In. This year's All In was really good. This year's I think we reviewed that, and this All In was one of the better pay-per-views AEW's done since their inception. So yeah. Have I ever been to a WWE event at Madison Square Garden? I have not. I have seen Royal Rumble 2000 Arena and WrestleMania with HBK versus Razor Ramon, and it's uncanny how much they look the same. Yeah, is that the Intercontinental match at WrestleMania, the ladder match? That was a great match, if that's what you're talking about. William, I'm not sure if you agree with this. I think WWE usually has a style of rushing that caters more to casual fan base. Yeah, well, most wrestling people who watch wrestling aren't going to be like me. They're not going to be a wrestle dork like me that watches way too much wrestling and stays up way too late to watch wrestling from other countries. Most of your fans, just like any of these things that we do, we talk about comic book movies, anything else, most of your fans are just casual fans. They know the big name. They're kind of near me as far as fanatical goes, but they don't get into the weeds like I do, but they watch every night. They watch the shows, and that's as far as they take it. But yeah, the casual fan is what WWE is built on. They're borderline fanatics, but they're not me. Cruiserweight division in the 90s. Yeah, you had Dean Malenko, you had Eddie Guerrero, you had Chris Benoit, you had Rey Mysterio, you had Billy Kidman, you had Juventud Guerrera. Man, you had a lot of people in that division that were really good. Disco Inferno was in that division, and they were all at the height of their career, and nobody else. I mean, WWE tried the light heavyweight division. They tried the 205. They've never been able to nail what WCW did in that mid-90s. Chris Jericho was in that division. The whole NWO versus Sting storylines were cool, but the cruiserweight matches were the best. They were the best, and a lot of those guys went on to be heavyweights too. So I agree. William, do you think that when Marvel uses some of these titles, it's just a name like Winter Soldier? Yeah. But most of the time, they do partially adapt it to the point where the name is justified. Civil War was justified, even if it didn't happen exactly like it did in the comic books. It was the basis of it. Same thing with the Infinity Saga and Infinity War. If you read the comics, it's the basis, not everything that happens. I mean, there's a lot of shit that just they left out of the Infinity Saga, like Adam Warlock and all the things that Jim Starlin had put into that saga. But yeah, it's not just a name only. It's the name is the basis of it, but they do adapt it enough to justify the name. What's up with the NFL ESPN deal? Didn't I hear the details earlier today? Yeah, it's basically the NFL is going to own a stake in ESPN, and ESPN is going to buy the NFL network. So they'll have access to all that, but you'll still have the NFL network. It won't just be exclusively on. But I think that if you buy the $29.99 package, you get the access to it as well. It's still the details are still hazy for me as well. Because I saw somewhere Ed Brubaker is mad that Marvel didn't give him enough credit for his comics. They used his influence. They don't have to. They barely give. They barely give credit to the people who create the stuff. I mean, they had to be forced to use Jack Kirby. I mean, Stan Lee was there, but Jack Kirby wasn't alive, so he can have his name on it. But a lot of times, I mean, I don't know how many times I saw Jim Starlin's name from Avengers 2012 on. I think Jim Starlin created, I don't know if he created Thanos, but he created all that storyline. He engineered the entire, Infinity Quest, all that stuff. I don't know how many times this name got on there. I mean, it would be nice if they do it, but they technically don't have to because they own those characters. So, how you doing, Slip? Not bad. William, is there a difference between cruiserweights, junior heavyweights, and the light heavyweights? No, they are generally all the same. That each company had a trademark, or they didn't, like when WCW was using cruiserweight, WWE didn't want to be using that same name, so they would say light heavyweight. Basically, what it is it's 225 pounds or below. And then with WWE, with their cruiserweight, they went 205 and below. But usually, generally, it's a more high flying, like the X Division for a while was just smaller guys, but now they've changed it to where bigger guys are doing it. But usually, your light heavyweight was 225 or below, or 205 below, depending on how you wanted to work it. I've been watching since George Hackersmith days of wrestling. Ooh, my God, how old are you, Chuck? I really hope Tony Khan is able to get Ring of Honor television streaming deal soon, and I would like AEW Dark to come back. I don't know about AEW Dark because of the streaming deal. I would like to see Ring of Honor completely be separate and independent and not have to rely on AEW for TV exposure, because otherwise you that's the only time you ever see, unless you want to buy the Ring of Honor program. But even then, having something on TV is always going to be better for building your brand. I think he wants to do right by Ring of Honor, but without a separate TV deal, it's kind of hard. Should I have NFL Plus Premium? I get Red Zone in almost all live games. Yeah, and if you play fantasy football, you got to have that Red Zone in. William, do you see a WWE, TNA, AEW between? I don't think so. I don't think Nick Khan would ever do it. I think Tony Khan would do it, but I don't think Nick Khan would ever do it. They see themselves as too big or too good for that. TNA already works with them, but are you asking me, do I see them doing anything in the future with each other? Or are you asking me where do I see them in general? or William, do you see a WD? Do I see a deal? Okay, if you're talking about a deal to work with each other, probably no, because WWE just doesn't see other wrestling federations like that. And they definitely wouldn't do it with AEW because they're starting to realize AEW is a force to be reckoned with. They're counter-programming AEW when they were not doing that 2-3 years ago. So, yeah. Well, when it comes to AAA in terms of getting exposure in the U.S., where do you think WWE likely puts them on TV? No. I don't know if they'll put them on TV as a separate component, or will you just have AAA matches on Raw or on SmackDown or on this new network that they do? They may have just pay-per-views. They might just do pay-per-views. I'm not sure right now what they would do. Could AEW call the unified title the Intercontinental title, since it was I think Intercontinental they've trademarked that term for that belt. Hackensmith, like I said, I don't even remember Hackensmith. And I've been watching wrestling for over 40 years, so I'm trying to think, and I couldn't remember. Like, that's one of them old 70s shit. I think right now Intercontinental has been trademarked. I would have called it the Interstate title, because it doesn't make any sense. If you have a world title, then your number one contender title, your number 2 belt should not be. I don't believe in like global title or international title, because international is world. At least with the Intercontinental, it was, I like the U.S. title better. I would have liked a U.S. title better, and I don't think that's trademarked. But interstate title or something like that, because the world is number 1, and then number 2 is your continent, and then that way, I know New Japan had an Intercontinental title, but they also had a U.S. title, and then they merged them, and it was stupid. So I would say interstate title, but international title was fine. And now it's the what do they call it now? I don't know. But I like the belt. In a couple of years, WWE and AEW will own all of the territory. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they want to, because you're talking about, stretching yourself a little bit thinner than they want to. I mean, and if there's not that much around. And once you have, you have TNA, you have AEW, and you have WWE. That's your three major ones right now. Everything else is a subsidiary of them. There's not a lot out there that you could just basically take the talent if you wanted to. You don't really need to buy the federation anymore. None of these other places have like TV deals or anything, or that kind of name. I mean, AAA was a huge name in Mexico, but there's not a lot of them. I mean, CMLL is the only other one out there, and they're never going to sell. I don't know if Tony Khan would want to buy them or if they would want to sell a lot. AAA was in financial trouble, so that made that easier. I don't know. It's possible, Chuck. I don't think so. And even still, when you wrestle for AEW, he lets you wrestle indies. So he has the best of both worlds right now without having to spend that money. But you know what? It could happen. What's my thoughts on the Undertaker coming back, or Tyler coming back? If he's coming back for like little spot performances, like what he did with Trick Williams, that's fine. But if you're saying you're going to give me a full-on feud with a long, 45-minute match, I don't know if it's in his best interest to come back into that because he's pushing 60 and his body has taken a lot. His body has taken a lot. Where you lived in California, what channel did you get USWA? Channel 56. NWA, Channel 56, and World Class, Texas World Class Wrestling, Channel 56. If it wasn't, NWA was on 56, but it was also on TW. It was also on TBS. Ted Turner built his network around wrestling. So he actually owned. He bought from Jim Herd. He bought NWA Church in the World Championship Wrestling. But yeah, NWA was primarily anywhere in this country was on TBS. That was the main thing. Their Clash of the Champions was on there. But they would have other wrestling shows that were in other territories that were called like Worldwide Wrestling or Midnight Whatever Wrestling, and those will all be on different times on Channel 56. And after USWA for until they merged with World Class, they were all on Channel 56 when I was in LA. National title could have worked. I think NWA has that one, but national title could have worked. But basically, what the name of the belt to me is not as important as where it fits. If you have that belt, you should be being put in storylines with the world title. 2 years ago, before the regular season, NFL was promoting a brand in Japan with Micah Parsons, CJ Stroud, and other players. You think we'll get some claims out there? Oh yeah, eventually. I mean, you got them in all over the place. You got them in London. You got them in Germany. So why not? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm surprised they're not. I mean, obviously, you're not going to get them in China now. I think I hate that's the New Japan US title right there. I love that title. I purchased this title. It's signed by Jay White, by the way. Almost had it signed by Will Ospreay. And if I ever meet him again, or if I ever meet Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega have one of the greatest matches in New Japan history for that title. No, I hate the New Japan World Heavyweight title, the triangle looking thing that replaced this. Okay, so right here in this picture, I have my U.S. title signed by Jay White, and I also have the IWGP Heavyweight title on my other arm. That's the title I love. The title that Jay White has is the title I hate. I hate the design. I think that is ugly, and it is a downgrade from the title that I have in my hand. I hate that belt. It's ugly. That's the Moose one. I had the Okada one up here. Did I get rid of the Okada one? I had the Okada one. Here's the Okada one. So that belt right there, so many greats have held that belt in the 10 years that it was around. It is the greatest looking professional belt other than the big gold, which is that one. But yeah, no, I love the U.S. title. I hate the world title. Yeah, but I don't think they were on financial stable ground either. That would be, it depends on, are they even for sale? Do you remember the picture back in the late 2010s of Undertaker looking 60 with a walking stick? I thought it was yeah, because he went through a stretch there that he put his body through a lot. I mean, he wrestles a style that is for a 7-foot man like that. It's not always good on the joints. Neither do I. I don't want wrestling to become what it was from 2001 to 2018 because people got hurt. People got hurt professionally. Vince was allowed to basically do anything he wanted to anybody because they had nowhere to go. And people, I think health-wise, people put themselves in positions with their bodies because they didn't want to lose their spot because there was less spots. So yeah. Well, MJF called it the American title. Remember when he redesigned it? After he beat Will Ospreay for it. William, do you have the original U.S. title, the one from the USA? No, I do not. I do not. You're talking about the one that like Lex Luger held. North American. I mean, anything like that would have been better. All right. Wow, that's a lot of wrestling content. You guys are ready with the wrestling tonight. It's good to hear. I always wonder, if my wrestling homies are out there. I'm here for you. You have your Money in the Bank contract. I hate Money in the Bank. I know why they do it, but I really don't. I hate because it's always going to be a match I'm really into, and here comes the fucking Money in the Bank people fucking it up. William, do I have a favorite title outside the big gold that Ric Flair had from the territories? Yeah, the one I just showed you. Well, I love my TNA one. That's one of the best belts in wrestling, but it's going to be this one. It's going to be that one right there. The one I'm holding with Okada, who is probably one of the greatest. The guy who helped him in. I have this belt, and it's been signed by Jay White. It's been signed by Okada right there, and then you saw him there. And if you look at the top where my head is, where the top of the belt there in the silver, he signed it in Japanese and in English for me. The Great Muta has signed that belt. The Great Muta, for those of you who don't know, is one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers ever, period, ever, anywhere. He signed that belt. I got him to sign that belt at WrestleCon. So this belt is my second favorite belt that I have, and second favorite belt that I have in general. But the one that, like I said, when it's sitting behind me, usually right now it's at the store. The one belt that obviously that is always going to be the top for me is this one right here. And that's the big gold. That's me standing next to Ric Flair with the big gold. This is the time that I'm that smile you see. I'm not as happy as you can see there as I would be. This made me mad. This was when I showed up and waited to get this belt signed, and then we didn't realize that he wasn't signing the belts or signing anything till he got there, and we were already in line. So I did my 4. I wasn't even. I had been doing something else that was non-Sci-Fi Center related. If you notice, I'm not wearing my usual work shirt that I'm wearing now. I had stopped my day to go get this done, and then he wasn't signing. However, last year's WrestleCon, I would indeed get the belt signed. So that belt actually has Sting. In fact, when you look at the intro to the show, you'll see one of those is me standing next to Sting. So I have that belt signed by Sting. And there's only one other signature that I want on it, and that's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I never wanted Hogan. Once I heard about Hogan and what he said, I did not want his name on that belt. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and I was left. I thought it was lacking. I'm glad everybody else enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. Like I said, I didn't like, oh my God, what a fucking waste. But I thought that was a potentially great movie that was just turned out to like an average movie for me. So. Oh, you're gonna come after me for one of my belts. Okay. I'm gonna cheat. You're not the first person to make that there, buddy. Have you seen the AEW have gotten rid of their version of Money in the Bank? I think, yeah. I want, yeah, because what's his face? Christian had it before. No, I only have one TNA belt, and that's the TNA World Title. The only TNA belt I have right now, currently, is this one right here. It's odd that you say Muda, Great Muda, is the greatest wrestler in Japanese history. A lot of no. I think you're saying I think you mean Antonio Inoki. Antonio Inoki is the most important Japanese wrestler. Literally, he's probably the most important Japanese wrestler ever lived. He founded New Japan. He founded All Japan. He's the basis of what Japanese wrestling is today. He's important as far as skill, versatility, longevity, and no, I am going to say it's the Great Muda for me. Some people will say Tanahashi, but I'm going to go Great Muda, and then it's going to go Okada after that. And I like I said, Antonio Inoki is the most important Japanese wrestler. But as far as like the greatest, as far as all those criteria I just gave you, I'm going to say Great Muda. I don't see any truth to that. I don't see anything. I don't see anything ethnic wise about unless that's. Did you see if that's actually for promoting the actors are doing for the Forest and Sandsign? No, I did not see that. I don't know if that's is that a coincidence or is that just because it's for? I mean, yeah, it makes sense. All right. Anybody got anything else? This is your time. The ferrets that run my brain have granted you this time. Do you believe the controversy that Lord and Miller were difficult to work with and their animators with the Spider-Verse? I think animation. I don't totally disbelieve that, but I don't think it's because of them. I think it's production companies and studios in general really treat animation houses like shit. They get a lot of work out of them for not a lot of money, and then a lot of the times those spaces even close up. I would predict that Lord Miller, being creators of top tier content, will probably be like anybody at that level. Once any Academy Award level person probably going to have high standards that not everybody's agreeing with. But I don't know how true all that is though. So. William, I didn't start watching Japanese wrestling until recently. So for me, in my opinion, the greatest wrestler I've ever seen on TV, anything is Hector Garza Sr. I would have to put Eddie Guerrero. Would be up there with him. I didn't see a lot of Hector Garza. I know I've seen some of his matches, obviously, but a lot of those guys, it's Eddie. I mean, a lot of those guys were influenced by Eddie. What? Let me hold on. Let me not get confused with Hector Garza. Yeah, I would yeah, he passed away early. I mean, he died at 43. Fuck. I would still put personally Eddie Guerrero ahead of him, another person that died even earlier. But I wouldn't. I can't really argue against you on Hector Garza. What do you mean? Spidey is an A-lister, yeah. What do you is that just a statement or? Rumors are already circling that Supergirl will do better than than Spider-Man brand new day. Oh, okay, I see what you're responding. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think. I think Supergirl is going to split this newly found Superman audience in half. people tell me, no, well, they already know her because she busted in through. That's not enough. I need to see how the general audience accepts this version of Supergirl before I start making any type of predictions. I think it's going to be hard to outdraw Spider-Man with its history, especially if it's a good movie. But I'm out of the box office prediction game. I don't think Brett would have put up with the ruthless aggression era. I just didn't think he wasn't that kind of. He doesn't seem to be that type of wrestler. I think he would have walked out in the ruthless aggression era. Okie dokie. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Hope I've given you a good hour. I hope if I have enriched your day and helped you off to slumber a little bit easier. So I'm starting to doze a little bit. Not really, but enough to where I probably need to get up and start doing some things before I head off to bed. And no, Owen Hart was not. I don't believe Owen Hart was better than Bret Hart, but that's a coin flip for a lot of people. So, and Owen Hart really never reached his full potential. He was really young when he was like 33, 32 when he was killed. So it wasn't like he had reached for a lot of wrestlers, his prime where he would have had his best years. So that's also a lot. He was taken from us before he got a chance to reach what Bret Hart may have been for him. So, yep, we sure did. So, all right, guys, that's it. I will see you tonight at 11:30. Next time you're going to see me is tonight at 11:30 when we do our watch party for the episodes 1 and 2 for Alien Earth. I've seen episode 1 at Comic-Con. I think you guys are going to love it, and then we will all watch episode 2 for the first time together. So, all right, tonight 11:30. I will see you guys then. Have a good morning. Have a happy Tuesday. Stay safe. Be good to each other, and I will see you tonight for Alien Earth. Bye.